few minutes, kind of put a little video together over some of the things that happened over the weekend, and just give some thoughts that are going on and kind of where we're at as a whole. A couple of quick little updates. USFC members will have a newsletter out later on today with a bunch of important information, as well as probably on Wednesday or Thursday, I'll be doing a YouTube live, and we'll be talking about a lot of the comments that the governor's made this past weekend in particular. And we're also going to give it until he comes out and speaks about his power conference with New Jersey and Connecticut. We kind of want to wait to see what results from there. So we'll probably be doing that midweek, and we'll keep you guys posted. So let's talk about what we've been trying to do as far as our check-ins and to show people check-ins to COVID rate. I'm going to try to string this along and see if everybody can kind of follow my train of thought. We've had some people that we, with inside of our group, not just inside of our group, when you guys post things, you know, you'll have people, friends or family who see things different, and they'll come at us and they'll kind of attack you perhaps, or they'll go against what it is you're trying to say, which is fine, right? Everybody's allowed to do that. What we're finding is the number one thing that they're saying is, here we are, we have probably by the end of the week, let's say we're around 3 million check-ins, because it's exponentially just building up, right? And we're getting more and more gyms reporting. So let's say it's 3 million. And let's say that number goes up as far as infection rate goes. Let's say it's another 5 or 6 people from 4. So let's say 6 people. And we're reporting that. Their response to that is, well, how do we know every gym owner is reporting? And how do we know every member is reporting? It's actually valid, right? We don't know. And to assume we know that every gym owner is doing the same or every member is doing the same is just, you know, insane. We can't do that. Using that same logic, however, well, you can't then blame outbreaks and spikes on the gyms because, like you just said, you don't know. Hence why there's no outbreaks or spreads from Walmart, Target, and Lowe's and every place else. Because when someone gets sick and they go to the doctor, even if they were to answer the questions correctly, if asked, and they wanted to supply information, they may say in the course of their day, they dropped their kid off at school, they went to Target afterwards, then they went to go get some lunch with a friend, then went to the grocery store to pick up dinner, picked their kid back up at school, and went to the gym. Of those 6 things, where did they get COVID from? Where did they get sick? It's impossible to say where unless there's a mass outbreak at one of those places. Hence why they can trace schools. And there has been thousands of COVID cases in New York State from schools. But the governor does not want to close schools because he says he knows that they're not a main source of outbreaks. Does that make any sense to anybody? It doesn't. But you want to close gyms because you know that they're mass spreaders. You don't. Matter of fact, if I want to take your explanation, no one knows. The only way you have an outbreak is if there are confirmed more than one person from a facility or an event. That's why schools, rallies, protests. That's why they know. Because a majority of people who happen to go to the same event are going to get tested and getting tested positive. So it's easy to track. You can't track individual places, right? You just can't. It's impossible. But what I can tell you is we do, in accordance with New York State, have to contact trace. And we have to keep record of it. So for every member that comes in, it's 28 days. Okay, it's 28 days. If our member goes out for 14 days, 18 days, they can't just come back into the gym. So now you're assuming that gym members and people are irresponsible, would never tell us and just risk the welfare of everybody else inside the gym. That's not the case. So if a member has COVID, they do call us. We, in turn, have to report it to the Department of Health, and they, in turn, are told by us, in accordance with CDC and New York State, to report it to the Department of Health. Every single one of my members, and I challenge anybody to go to any gym and prove anybody wrong, know that. They know that if they get COVID, they were a member here, we report it to the Department of Health, and we tell them to report it to the Department of Health. Now, the Department of Health will not consider it to be an outbreak or a spike unless there's two or more. That's still not the case for any gym. And I actually have data to show you. Now, whether you believe what's going on or not, that's another thing. But I'm actually showing you something. I have an expert that works with the United States Fitness Coalition that tests facilities, that can show you actual tests that schools, hospitals, and the government use. Do you still think those are bogus? We're now getting doctors coming out, like in Chicago, and we're getting studies posted that are explaining and saying everything that I've been saying and I'm saying here today. There are no outbreaks in gyms. So let's back up the truck a little bit and talk about before we were allowed to be open and we were closed out of phase 4. Okay, so let's go back to that point in time. When the governor came on and he says that he knows gyms are mass spreaders. Well, the fact is we had been closed the whole entire time. We weren't opened yet, so he couldn't, right? There was no proof. His verbiage was off. His verbiage was mistruths. And that's not even what Dr. Fauci said. What they said was they believe heavy breathing and droplets will spread the virus quicker. However, that was not an applied thought. It was, we think that if you're breathing heavy, just by definition, the air droplets are going to go out and it's going to infect people and get people sick. But again, it wasn't applied yet because we still weren't opened to take that and see if they're correct. So we get restrictions and we open. We open with masks, 6 feet apart, capacity, HEPA filters, air purifiers, contact tracing. So again, we are on par with the state requirement and CDC. The United States Fitness Coalition-backed members exceed CDC and are on par with the Department of Health, of which we are not even instructed by the state to do. We took it upon ourselves to do as an industry, to be tested, to prove that we are hygienically clean. And this is proving to be very, very valuable, as was just happened in Chicago. So here I am, I have check-ins, I have cleaning, I have actual testing by an expert who's worked with FEMA, who's worked for the government, who's tested schools, hospitals, and government buildings. I have all this. I'm armed with all of this to show and share. But yet, someone's going to throw at me a study that was done in South Korea back in March in a 600 square foot facility with no ventilation, place was packed, no nothing. And that was back in March. Okay? So now we've taken what everybody said and we applied it, and now we still are showing you information to say, well, it's still not us. You see, you're supposed to take what the scientists say. They say, we think it could be this, and it could be that. But then when we take it and we apply it, and we use all the protocols and everything that we're doing, and we still have no infection rate, or we're down to 0.0033%, well, now we got to go to the next spot, don't we? Maybe that's 50% to 75%. Maybe that's, you have to wear masks, but we're getting rid of the 6 feet rule, and you could be at 50%. Who knows? But you're supposed to move that needle forward. Gyms are not mass spreaders, and it's false to say so. It is also false to say that studies show. It's also false to say words like, we know they're not. Because what you're doing is you're talking out the other side of your face. Just as it's impossible for me to say that if we opened up at 100%, that we wouldn't be spreading the disease or the virus. We don't know. It's not applied yet. We've never gotten there. We can just simply show you here today that with these guidelines in place, with the extra protocols that the USFC has put in place, and all of our check-ins, we are not mass spreaders. The Department of Health tracks, there are no outbreaks. You cannot tell me one person, one gym, you can't find it. The governor can't find it. The governor's never been able to produce it. He just says it. But he's saying a thought. He's not saying what is applied. In Chicago has written to the mayor and said, gyms need to be open. We know that they're not mass spreaders by 17,000 doctors. Because we're not. You cannot continually just crush businesses because of something that hasn't been applied. And you can't continually crush businesses when it's applied and they show you the evidence that we're not spreaders and you still want to deny it. How does that make any sense for a governor who says follow the science? You're a science denier. That's what you're doing. You want to keep schools open. Schools have had thousands of cases since they've been opened because faculty members get sick, because maybe the kids are asymptomatic, but they're spreading it to the faculty members. We got a phone call this morning. Not anybody here, local, got it from way upstate. Not even in the fitness industry. They're in the entertainment industry. His entire family has COVID. Where'd they get it from? His son's school. Because they had three faculty members come down with COVID. And they've now spread it throughout the school. But the most precious gift that we have, that you don't want to close because you know that they don't spread. What? That by definition from the Department of Health is an outbreak. 2 or more. 3 got it. 3. This is the problem. Everything is arbitrary. You don't follow a certain guidance. You make up the rules as you go along. This is why people are frustrated. This is why people are angry. This is why people are hurting. There is no leadership. It is all arbitrary. You have been given proof. You have been given the science and you deny it. You deny to look at it. You deny to acknowledge it. You just deny the whole thing. You just want to keep on saying we're spreaders. To the public, we are not spreading this virus. You are more likely to get it at all other places than from here. Basically because of our testing, our capacity levels, our 6 feet distance, we wear masks. All the other places don't have any of that. It's just a free-for-all. But you don't fear going there because it's never reported that there was an outbreak. It was never reported, right? No outbreak from Stop and Shop or, any place else. So these myths, truths that the government keeps on saying are causing our industry irreparable harm and permanent damage. We have losses exceeding $1 billion. So, here's my other point to people. If your answer is that we are to stay closed, it needs to be followed up. If we are supposed to stay closed for the better good of the public, shouldn't the government be paying our rent? Or you think not? You think we should just close, lose our business, lose our livelihoods, lose our homes, lose our cars, lose our college funds, lose our retirement funds. That's the price we pay. That's what we're supposed to give. My question is, what are you giving? Right? None of it comes together, because none of it is right. When things are right, they tend to come together pretty nice, right? None of that makes any sense. So if Governor Cuomo wanted us to be shut, why doesn't he champion for the small businesses he's demanding to be shut? Why doesn't he champion to say we need rent reform? Why doesn't he champion to say we need something better than PPP to work for the small businesses so they can catch up with their landlords? And we're going to fight for you. We're going to fight for that because you're doing the right thing by New Yorkers and you're keeping New Yorkers safe and you're being New York tough. But he doesn't. He's just willing to let us fall. And then say things like, we know this is tough, hard decisions, but money can be made. Does anyone understand how when the people are the ones actually losing the hundreds of millions of dollars, that statement out of his mouth infuriates people? Does anybody understand how unempathetic that sounds? What a pompous ass you sound like when you say it? Think about if things were done different. Think about if he said things different. Leadership. Leadership. All this is about power. All of it's about power and keeping power. He's never contacted the fitness industry and spoken to us. He's never asked us how come PPP didn't work. What can we do? Well, Governor, you could start with the Restart Act. That would really help us. Well, Governor, we can have a conversation and we would love for you to show us what you're saying, where the super spreaders are in the fitness industry at these capacity levels. Because here's our data to show opposite. As a matter of fact, here's 17,000 doctors that say different. Matter of fact, here's the WHO saying don't close this down. So where is yours coming back? So I'm going to say to anybody out there who wants to argue to say that we know gyms are mass spreaders. No, you don't. No, you don't. You sound like a fool when you say it. You sound like a fool when you say it. Just as well as I can't say if the whole entire economy opened up and everybody was at 100%, that we wouldn't have triple the numbers of COVID. I can't say that because I don't know. I'd be a fool. I'd be a fool. I can assume, but I can't. Because at some point in time, we have to apply the things we're talking about and then follow it and then work on it from there. Again, I challenge anyone to show me gyms in New York or any other state where it's been mass spread and then where it was contacted back to the gyms. Now, if a restaurant had one, if Target had one, if schools have one, and 1 to 2 gyms in 50 states had it, does that mean that we know they're super spreaders? Is that what that means? Because I don't think so. I think you have to look at the whole industry and the whole entire state and do your best to figure out where those are coming from. What we can clearly say is we know that from mass gatherings, that's where they're coming from. That's where they're coming from. Thousands and thousands of people shoulder to shoulder, and that's where they're coming from. And we know putting our kids back in school is going to have people get COVID. We know this. We know this. This is what we've been saying. But for the governor to come on and say, no, keep schools open because they don't spread it, that thought is insanity. It is spreading inside the schools. It is. Now, if there's nothing to be alarmed about and people are just getting sick and it's controllable and, well, then keep the schools open. But you can't say this, do this, and mean this. None of it makes any sense. And the arbitrariness to destroy industries is ridiculous. There is actually a new study out, peer-reviewed, that shows that gyms aren't even in the top 3. Not even in the top 3. Doctors' offices are ahead of us. Which would make sense, wouldn't it? You're sick, going to the doctor's office. Healthcare workers, in the hospitals. All of these things make sense. But the one industry that can track our members, asks questions to our members, know our members on a personal basis, and we're showing you this information, and you want to tell me that it's wrong. We have an expert who's done 600,000 tests, and we can show it to you. But no, that's wrong. But it's science. No, it's not. Okay. Nothing here, nothing here. What are we doing? What are we doing? We should never be shut down again. This industry shouldn't be shut down again. We are not causing spikes, and we are not mass spreaders. Period. End of story. We can show you. You want to argue with me that we shouldn't be at 100%, we shouldn't be at 75%, we still need to be 6 feet apart. That at least is an argument you can say, but it's not applied yet. So you can have it, but it's not real yet because it's not applied. And until it is, you got nothing to stand on. You got nothing to stand on. All right, so I think as we start to move forward, this is really where we need to be. We are saying we can stay open. We can prove it. We can prove it, and we will. If we get shut down again, we will. 2 injunctions will be filed. One on behalf of all New York State fitness facilities. The other will be for all United States Fitness Coalition members who actually have the science and the tracking data behind them to show to the governor and the state. The state will have to show us their proof to say that the spreads are coming from us. They don't have it. They don't have it because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the state of New York. There is none. There is none. Way more outbreaks are happening in the schools. The very schools that the governor said, keep them open. I'm not even going to get into the whole what if we were open, what we could benefit for. We're going to leave that for Wednesday or Thursday, depending on what comes out from the governor's meetings with New Jersey and Connecticut. But I wanted to come on today to clear up a bunch of things from some people even in our group as gym owners. Gym owners, if you feel you should be shut, stay shut. Stay shut. I mean, that's it. But there's no proof to show that if you open, you're going to cause a spike. There's none. But if you want to stay shut, stay shut. To everyone else out there, we're not spreading this virus. We're taking our precautions just as well as anybody else. We're even doing better than everyone else who's been open and thriving and, doing whatever. We're just simply trying to survive now. We're just simply trying to survive. So if you're going to tell us to be shut, maybe you should be championing for us to get paid back. Maybe you should be walking with us. Maybe you should be talking with us. Maybe you should be voicing your concerns for us to be made whole, to help pay for the landlords. That you understand that we shouldn't be losing our homes. And you should stand with us instead of yelling at us, instead of disagreeing with us, instead of saying things that you heard from a governor who's spreading mistruths. Maybe we should start there. Maybe the people should have empathy for one another, because at the end of the day, it's all about us. The man that sits on the hill doesn't give a shit about you or me. And if you think he does, you're not paying attention. So maybe, just maybe, if we spoke to one another, we had conversations with one another, I could understand you, you'd understand me, and we can come together for one common cause and one common goal, and that's to get out of this, okay, unscathed, to be able to survive, to be able to keep my business afloat, to be able to provide for family, to be able to keep my home that I worked hard for. Maybe we can do all those things. But understand the facts and understand the truth about our industry. All right, thank you. Have a great day.